For more on Russia's presidential election, I'm now being joined by the chairman of the Russian chapter of Nigerians in diaspora, Dr. Godwin. Thank you for joining us on World Now. Well, let's begin on a personal note. You are in Russia. Are you able to vote, and have you been able to cast your ballot if you're able to?
Well, all citizens of the Russian Federation are able to cast their votes. It's very well organized because you can do it through virtual ballot. You could do it physically. It's done in such a way that it's not a working day. You can do it over the weekends. In any case, it's such a big deal because even the commercial organizations, private organizations remind you, include it in their schedule for those who work shifts during the weekend. And public institutions give space, volunteer staff to help in organization and also include it in their schedule. So there's almost no excuse not to vote. It's done in such a way that you almost have no excuse not to vote.
All right, so talk to us about what the mood is like. How are people going out there? Because we've heard reports of incidents where there are reports of failed attempt to set fire at some polling units.
To every rule, there's always an exception. In every society, you always have those who are the exception to those who are trying to maintain peace and order. And but the point is like how significant, if there exists such, which I haven't seen myself, if there exists such, they're such a minute fragment that they're so insignificant to the general scope of things. The turnout of the election is expected, not just in Russia, even by the West. The turnout is expected to be over 75% for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Not only that, but the added reason of some people just wanting to make a point, being faced with this current geopolitical climate where they feel there's an attempt for regime change from outside the country against their own mandate. And recall that President Putin has an approval rating of over 85%, over 80% at least, corroborated in both the Eastern and Western publications. So the attempt to kind of put sanctions and to cause regime change through sponsorship of organizations lead more citizens to want to make that point and to exercise their voting right. Otherwise, they would just say, well, we know Putin will win, why bother to go out? But they care so much about the turnout, not just the result, because the result is kind of clear. Everyone expects President Putin to win, but the turnout and being greater than 75% is what is expected.
All right, but let's talk about the significance of this election. President Putin is seeking election for a fifth term. What is the impact on that, on the Russian Federation and its relations with countries across the world?
I know there's always something called, there's a phenomenon called incumbency fatigue, where, just being in power for such a long time could make people to lose interest. But, when there's an external aggression, people tend to unite together in a country, more so Russia. Russia has a long history where, irrespective of any disagreement they might have with leadership, when there's an external aggression, they rally around together, around their leaders. So the sanctions, the broad sanctions on all Russian citizens by the West, where they are unable to use Western services as they would like to, and which they patronized before the sanctions, lead them to feel punished for nothing, and make them want to rally around their leaders. So these are part of the things that contribute to the absence of this incumbency fatigue, which is a general phenomenon we see. And also more so when the policy is more focused on a national interest, where a leader seems to be going supporting the country's interest as against the tide. And a lot of people respect that. And I don't think there's anybody anywhere in the world who doubts that his approval rating is very, very high. And, he's been in power for a very long time. It's almost not the norm, but with such very high approval ratings and in such geopolitical climate where he's having to fight external pressure, defending national interest. It's very, very obvious that even if he wants to come for another term after this one, he most likely will get it.
Well, the Russia-Ukraine war is still on, and this election is expected to take place also in the annexed regions of Ukraine. What feelers are you getting from these regions about, how the election might just turn out?
You see, some regions which were, you like to use the word annexed. Well, it's true, maybe annexed, but you see, the self-determination, principle of self-determination is an enshrined law in the UN Constitution. Over 90% of people in these regions which expressed a desire to join the Russian Federation, they voted to join Russia. And places like Mariupol, they already experienced development because there's a lot of government investment in those regions. For example, there are new plots given out to residents. There are new roads. The front line have moved away from their city to other cities. So other cities in the Donbass that are looking at this development are saying, wait, we want to be part of it. And obviously, they will vote for any government that has led to such development. There are a lot of people in these regions who also come to Moscow, host concerts, trying to show their support for Russia and its military operation. So I think that the Russian war and the sanctions was a kind of unexpected gift to the president. It made even the oligarchs in Russia to have to choose. Before, they didn't want to choose between Russia and the West. They wanted to do business with everybody. But the geopolitical climate had made them to have to choose their motherland or to do business with the West. And that choice was made possible because of the sanctions of the West.
All right, then. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. Chairman, Russian Chapter of Nigerians in Diaspora, Dr. Godwin Ibe. Thank you for your time on The World Now.
Thank you for having me.